Hey Resetters, Janine back with another video in our love series, and today's video is going to focus on reframing financial failure and how to turn it into a learning opportunity. Well, let me tell you, I got a lot of experience in financial failure, just from, if you're new here and you don't know my story, from being really, really young, just out of college, getting credit cards I probably had no business having, not understanding how to use credit, racking up bills, having a very small, job, literally just paying the minimum payment to keep them paid up, and then transitioning and moving back home from Chicago, and getting my dream job only, about a year and a half to 2 years later, being laid off due to the dot-com crash. And I think about the bills and the responsibilities that we have today, and what I was dealing with at 1920 was nothing. But if I think about it from that perspective back then, and that was my responsibility, it was a lot not to be able to pay your bills. And so what that did is, while I was searching for another job, once again, this was like my first adult job out of college, I wasn't able to make payments on my credit cards. I wasn't able to make payment on my student loan. And so those dings started to rack up. And it really resulted in me bringing my credit score down all the way to a 529. And I only knew that when I had gotten another job and was doing really, really well and wanted to look into purchasing a home for myself. And when I met with the realtor, she gave me the very shocking but very real truth that my credit score was 529. And honestly, no one would take the risk of lending with me. And that was fuel enough for me to say, okay, I need to do something different. I'm making better money. I'm making good money now. What do I need to do? And I took those steps to address my credit. I took steps to read as many books as I could about budgeting, organizing my money, and changing my mindset. And very early on, about 2014, the idea of reset was born. And I just started helping any and everyone that I knew, with their finances. And it turned out to be a lot of people were struggling with their finances when they felt very comfortable enough to share, because that is absolutely, something that people kind of hold to the vest. It's something about not being able to manage your money or not managing your money well that brings a lot of shame. And so, my company, Reset Budgeting and Financial Coaching, we focus on no shame and no shade when we're working with people. Number one, because I've been there. Right? So how can I shame you for something I've went through? I completely understand. And, reframing financial failures, I have to say with Reset, had I not gone through that period, had I not gone through the no, had I not had those experiences, the Reset would never have come to fruition, because I wouldn't have had the struggle and the overcoming of the struggle to be able to even relate to people. I know folks where money is just, they've always been done well, with that money. And I couldn't understand why that wasn't my story, but I do understand it now. I understand it now. So I would tell you, if you are coming off the cusp of just making some bad decisions, I had a car, I had a vehicle repossessed. I was a financial mess. But here's what I love is that even though you may be a financial mess, right? You may have a lot of debt. You may have some medical bills or just things that maybe were out of your control. My layoff, at 20, 19, 20, 21 years old, what have you, my layoff wasn't in my control. It just was, it was what it was at the time. And I didn't know to ask for help at that time. I didn't know to confess and tell my creditors, hey, I've been laid off. I can't pay my bills. How can you help me? That's one thing. If you haven't done that, is go to your creditors. Go to your creditors and let them know that you are having challenges. And what can they do? Can they pause your payments for a little bit? I know some creditors are able to do that. Some have dropped their interest rate to 0 for a select amount of months. And that has given us the opportunity for our payments to actually affect change and be reduced, but also the money that we were actually making to the payments are actually going to the principal. It wasn't just going to the interest. So that's one thing. Most people are like, oh, I didn't think to ask. And yeah, closed mouth never gets fed. If you don't ask, they only can say no. But the other thing that you can do is ask the Lord, what lesson is he trying to teach you? Right? Another thing that you can do, which I think is probably the most powerful thing that you can do, is to go in prayer and ask the Lord, what lesson are you trying to teach me? Lord, what do I need to change? What's the first step I need to do? I'm in this, mire of financial difficulty. How can this be turned around for my good? Now, I know I have the latter story that, my story was getting my butt, into books and understanding and reading and listening and applying that information to my own situation. And so that is the same thing I want to do for you. The Susie Ormans and, the Dave Ramseys and what have you weren't tangible to me. All I had was books. And so I've become that tangible person for people where they can kind of tell me, here's what's happening, and I can look from a bird's eye view and see a bigger landscape I'm not attached to say, hey, here's what I see. Yeah, ask him for the mindset to stay positive as well, right? To stay positive in your journey, to know that this is just a stepping stone. The word is so wonderful and the word is so forgiving that right in the Lord's word, it talks about the 7 years, and that if you owe a debt to your debtors in the Old Testament, after 7 years, you no longer owe that debt. Now, let me be clear. The debt is yours, and it is your responsibility to pay it. But should you get into a situation where you're paying so much out and you haven't been able to get the debt paid, it does become forgiven and it can be dropped off of your credit report. What that tells me through the word is that your situation is not forever. It is not final. It is not yay and amen forever. It's not permanent. There is an opportunity for you to turn things around, but your mindset, right, has to turn around with it as well. Because if you get all of your debt taken care of, or you pay your debt down, and your mindset is doing the same things and your behavior is the same, you're going to rack up yet another set of debt and be in the same position. So prayer, a budget, and really just seeking to say, hey, what am I learning? What do I see? What did I spend this on? Why did I do that? Do I even remember spending this money? Reflection is huge. And you get that opportunity when you are actually having those date nights with your money, when you are taking time to sit down and take a look at what you've spent. And maybe you might want to look at what you've spent over the next, the last couple of months, just to make sure that the things that you're spending on are valuable to you. Okay? All right. I'll see you in the next video, resetters. Take care.